ready?
S-D-P, the Steve Dangle Podcast, with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Let's go!
Woo! We're all back together. I apparently missed a really good episode last week, or last episode earlier this week, and I haven't listened to it. So if there were highlights, guys, if somebody were to say this is the episode worth listening to, and here are the spots, what would you say were the highlights of the previous episode?
Can I go first, Steve?
Sure.
All you need to listen to is Digit Murphy.
Okay.
That's it. Just skip to that part of the podcast and listen to us talk to Digit Murphy and listen to Digit Murphy go off. She's unbelievable.
I'm upset I missed that. I'm really upset. We keep missing each other. Steve and I have tried to have like conversations with her, and we haven't been able to make it work. And then of course the podcast she's booked to be on, I've got the stomach flu. So sorry I missed that, but
yeah, it's just I think it's a shame, Adam, that you didn't listen to one of the best shows we've ever done. Like Jesse and I always so look forward to the shows where you're not there. And like I just feel like we did a really good job and you didn't listen.
There's always
the Voracek discussion, that was really good.
It was. Yeah, you made some really good points, Steve.
I know, and well, you know why? No Adam there to interrupt me like he always does.
And I was actually able to make some predictions and some picks because I remembered to call on myself to make those picks.
There you go.
Well, you can always count on your friend Steve to let you get a word in.
Oh, thank you, Steve. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Well, it is nice to be back despite the reception. And listen, I think if we do need to talk about the most boring game of the season thus far, which was the Edmonton-Toronto game. It was awful. But there's a lot of other things to talk about. There is what's going on with the Washington Capitals right now in the COVID-19 situation, $100,000 fine there. We've obviously got also Mike Babcock being featured in an article by Pierre LeBrun in The Athletic. There's been some fallout from that, as you would expect there would be. But definitely some opinions out there that I think are interesting in a vacuum. But the emotional response to Mike Babcock is surprising to me. And I think it speaks to a few things. We're going to have to talk about that because, I don't think I realized the vehement anger towards him in this market. Like, with Randy, it was sort of like Randy Carlyle was sort of like, Randy, like, you're clearly not the right coach or whatever. Or Ron Wilson, well, you're clearly not the right coach. Or, Pat Quinn, it was just sad. Paul Maurice is like, well, they didn't have a goalie. Like, it was never, I've never nobody, this is normally what we do to right shot defensemen. We hate them. This is normally what happens in Toronto to any good defenseman that comes through here, which is why we haven't had any. But with Mike Babcock, it's like there's a real anger towards him in the market and really outside of it too.
Yeah, so I guess we're starting here, eh?
Well, no, we're not. We're not.
Oh, we're not? Okay.
We're going to start with you. I'm just kind of teeing up the show and kind of some of the stuff we're going to be hitting on.
Gotcha.
So,
I'm excited to get to that because people wanted it right away, and I didn't have time for a video. I was on Dark Guy's new show, The Smoke Show, with Jason Massico and Ryan Drury. Well, I had some thoughts there, but I couldn't wait to sit down with you guys.
I think there's going to be a giant tiger interrupting us anytime soon.
And that's where we're going to start right now. Let's get into it. Frosted Flakes. All right.
Where's
It does the animation in post, you guys.
Yeah.
It does every time.
Always puts it in after. You know that. I just leave a pause because I feel like Jesse needs a pause to put it in.
I do. And I appreciate that.
So anyway, okay. So, Steve, if you were to take a goal in yesterday, that was your favorite goal. If we're talking about highlights, and that's what the whole Frosted Flake segment's about, it's like literally the best Selly. And really, this goal is one of the best goals we've seen. Matthews on Koskinen. Can you break it down? What did you love about it?
Well, I could break it down. What I loved about it is it was Matthews just being dominant. He stripped Zach Kassian. Mikko Koskinen gives him a hole about the size of a puck, and Matthews puts it through him. But Adam, this is what I was talking about, man. Like Jesse and I, we really like the shows where you weren't butting in and everything, because that wasn't even the goal I was gonna pick.
What's the goal were you gonna pick? Was it
the goal I was gonna pick happened actually the night that our last one released. And I don't think we've ever done this for Frosted Flakes, Adam. I don't think we've ever done this.
What have we not done?
My goal is an empty netter. Mitch Marner putting the puck into the empty net with authority while Neil Pionk, more like Neil Peon, I always say, tries to get him with a big 8 or 9 stride, maybe a little high, maybe a little sticking out the leg there hit. And Mitch Marner sends him flying into the boards while putting the final nail in the coffin for that game, securing a big 2 points for his team. And then he's told Neil Pionk what's what. For some reason, I just fell in love with an empty netter goal. I didn't know that was a possibility, but I fell in love with it right away. And that's why I'm giving that one to Anthony the Tiger, because I thought Mitch looked a little bit like a tiger out there dealing with
what
his
a
problems.
great Selly.
I agree, Tony.
Well, and the Selly part of it was the two teams sort of mixing it up.
Yeah.
Like, what was funny was like Scheifele's in there like, don't do that to my guy. And it's like, what are you talking, Mark? Like, what are you defending?
I don't, he's defending his guy. Just, I don't know. If I'm on the Jets, I'm like, I can do anything. And Mark Scheifele will defend me. That's very nice. I noticed 4 Winnipeg Jets in that scrum, and none of them were named Neil Pionk. He just stood there in the corner while his teammates cleaned up his mess. I don't know. Not a great show in there from Mr. Neil. I didn't like it very much, but I like Mitch Marner and John Tavares sticking up for themselves. It was very nice.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
Now that's a reason for a cereal Selly.
Thank you.
Okay. Now on to Who Wore the Crown. Jesse, brought to you by.
Today, this segment is brought to you by the right shoe.
The right
Not
shoe.
the left one, but specifically the right shoe. Adam, take it away with the liner we got provided by the right shoe.
You know, you could put on many shoes, but sometimes after you put on the left, you must put on the right. You must look to your right side and go, do I have the proper coverage here? And when you do put on your left shoe, you should look at your right foot and say, why not put on a right shoe? Why not? Indulge myself and cushion my heel.
So put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
And be on the right side of history.
Who wore the crown?
Right shoe.
Who Wore the Crown brought to you by the right shoe. Okay, Steve, I like this. This is good. This is really, this is what Whose Line Is It Anyway would be like if everybody sucked.
That's good.
So, Steven, if you're going to pick a crown, Jesse, I'm saving you for last because yours are always such a wild card. We're never sure. You got 2 games to pick from Winnipeg, Edmonton. What are you picking?
Well, I'm going to pick someone who I liked in both games.
Okay.
And someone who is in need of some, we know how to pronounce his name.
Mm-hmm.
In his native tongue. We know how to pronounce it in English as well. But we don't know how to pronounce it with respect. And that is why I am giving my right shoe crown to Frederick Anderson.
Oh,
we were talking about this guy like he's going to be the backup goalie. We had a clip just last video. This guy is going to lose his job after not even 3 games, 2 games. 2 games for him and 1 for Jack Campbell, and then he has a very good game against Winnipeg. And I don't know what you expected him to do there against Edmonton. So I'm going to give him the crown for coming out and giving his team a chance to win in both games. I'm going to give it to Freddie.
And I'm going to give it to one Mitchell Marner.
Why?
Well, Mitch Marner obviously had was it a 3-point night against Winnipeg or was it a 4-point?
3.
And was responsible for most of, if not all of the offense against Ottawa in game 2 of the 2-game set there. I think Mitch Marner is playing like Mitch Marner should play. This is exactly what you hope for. Remember we talked last year before the pandemic. There was a world before the pandemic where, Mitch was up and down, and Chris Johnson's been on the show and he's talked about the fact that Mitch sort of struggled with the new contract a little bit. And it mentally, it changes the way you look at yourself. And it seems like Mitch has figured that out, and he's becoming this dominant player that we all hope and want him to be, and is like unbelievable with some of the passing. Now, sometimes, and he did this last night, he needs to shoot. He needs to shoot. Stop always looking for the pass. But
depends who you ask, Adam.
What's that?
Depends who you ask. People are ripping on him for giving it to or never giving it to Matthews anymore.
Oh.
People are just mad at Mitch
Yeah.
Mad at him.
Well, we did. Okay. Just as an aside, we did say this would happen.
Yep.
We said, if you play this tact, you might win, but people are going to be mad at you forever. So that's sort of the.
Almost no matter what.
Yeah.
Like almost no matter
win
what.
the
Like
cup,
he was
it's all
literally
gone.
their first star for 2 straight games that were both wins. And he has one sort of off game against Edmonton and it completely resets. Like,
Yeah, and it's not fair. I mean, Mitch Marner's been,
there
I
it
think,
is.
for my
11
money,
million bucks
he's been the best forward they've had overall this year. For my money.
overall.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, he wasn't great last night.
No
Tavares,
off game money.
well, okay, fair.
Making
But
no
Crosby
off
has
game
off
money.
games.
I want 56 crisp games. That is. I am. Nope. You
Are you
make double digits, you have this many off games.
Well, McDavid and
That many.
Draisaitl didn't have a good game last night.
McDavid looked good.
They look good in a vacuum, but the results weren't really there, right?
No, but they won, so no one really cares.
Yeah, and I think McDavid just got unlucky on a couple finishes. Like he had so many good drives to the net that just
That one
didn't go
power
in.
play chance.
Yeah.
Where he was just like, I'm gonna do it myself.
I'm just gonna go, and like he
Yeah.
does that every once and again. I think that's a situation where you have 0 off nights because you're just faster than everybody. That even if you're having an off night, you'd be like, I can get to the net at any time. If you give me any runway, McDavid's gonna get to the net. So
Fair enough. Well, so here's what there's a couple things. So Mitch Marner's my guy because I think Mitch Marner deserves to be the guy, and he's earning that money. And Steve is upset that.
I'm not upset.
But he has carried the offense, and that's what you want your best players to do. As a total aside, I was watching last night's game going, how much would Edmontonians hate Connor McDavid if he had been drafted a Leaf? He would be public enemy number 1 in Edmonton. No question. Now, Jesse, go ahead.
Joe Thornton, Jack Eichel, Franz Nielsen, Essa Lindell, Mitch Marner, Anze Kopitar, Victor Olofsson, Braden Holtby. Those are guys 34 through 28 on last year's Lady Byng Memorial Trophy voting. Coming in at number 26 was William Nylander. Do you guys know what the Lady Byng trophy is for?
Gentlemanly conduct while playing the game that is supposed to be not gentlemanly.
Exhibited the best type of sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct combined with the high standard of playing ability. Now, when I think of gentlemanly conduct, I think of sacrificing yourself for the betterment of the team.
Right.
This year, William Nylander's ice time is down. Last year, he was up around 19 minutes. This year, he's down below like 16, 17-ish.
That's a big drop.
It's a big drop. A couple minutes throughout for the
huge.
first 5 games, he's dropped
That's
a couple minutes.
Probably not a winning strategy, but we'll leave that for now.
He's on the second power play unit, probably.
Right? And he's on the second line with JT. I don't know how Sheldon Keefe thinks this is a winning strategy, but my crown goes to William Nylander for exhibiting gentlemanly conduct for the first 5 games, for giving up his own ice time for the new guys that have come to this team.
Right.
And lots of additions. They got to get acclimated to this lineup. They got to get playing time with their new teammates. Wayne Simmons, obviously. You know, we got to get all of these new guys in the lineup. So William Nylander has seen his ice time a little reduce, and I think it's going to pick up as the season goes along. Like, I think it's a situation where it's kind of ramping up. But to start the year, it's kind of a slow start for him. So he's going to get my crown for being that Lady Byng 26th place vote getter.
It's like he's in NASCAR.
And exhibiting that gentlemanly conduct by taking time ice away from himself.
And 26, GBVC's number, and that's his line mate.
There you go.
You know, he's a team player. I did a little bit of research, Jesse. You know what William means in Swedish?
What?
Selfless.
Amazing.
Is that what it means?
And that's who wore the crown today, brought to you by The Right Shoe. The next time you're putting on your shoes, why not? Why not? Consider your right shoe before or after your left shoe.
Which one is better? Putting it on before or after?
See, there's some people that care about that. I'm like, whatever's closest.
It's true.
Whatever side I'm on.
I don't know if I've ever thought of it.
There are hockey players that I remember. I think it was Chris Draper. He brought the Stanley Cup home to the neighborhood, and I remember asking him. I think I was like 9. I said, like, you know, do you have any like superstitions? And he said, I think he said he put on the right side of his body first and then the left side and then the pants. So there's a lot of people that don't put their pants on until after, or they'll put their skates on last or whatever, but you do like all the way up, including your elbow pads, and then you do shoulders, and then you go all the way up the other side. Okay. Just because that's their superstition.
So a year or two ago when I just started getting into hockey, I was really insecure about the equiment and everything.
Oh, you mean playing hockey, right?
Playing hockey, yeah.
You're not new with the whole liking hockey thing, are you?
The Maple Leafs, is it? No, so I started getting into it, and I was really insecure about the equipment because everything, oh, look at this bender. He put his tape in this place, and that's not where the tape goes. It's always, and then I quickly
you did have your elbow pads on the wrong way.
That was bad.
Yeah.
Tell us the story, Steve.
Yeah.
Tell us the correct story.
Oh God. So I got my own equipment for like the first time ever, and I tweeted myself wearing it over my clothes, like just to be funny. And Mark Savard goes, hey, like he just tweeted me out of the blue. He didn't even work for Sportsnet yet, I'm pretty sure. He just goes, yeah, it's pretty cool, except your elbow pads are on the wrong arms. And I was just like, I wanted to die. Like I wanted to delete my life. Like I did not feel good about it. But no, then I started to get into it, and I realized every person puts on their equipment completely differently.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like puts tape in different places and different order, and it doesn't friggin' matter. It doesn't matter. Shut up.
I'll never understand the guys who put on their skates and then the pants. I think you're weird.
Yeah, I think that's weird too.
Yes.
I think you're taking a lot of risk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Skates
no, but
last.
hockey's about risk, bro. My dad did it, and his grandpa did it, and
yeah, but their
just say
equipment was
that's
leather.
how your dad taught you. Just say it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just feel like I'm like, you know what, man? I'm an adult and I've got things to pay for, and new hockey pants ain't one of them. I'm hanging on to these as long as I can. So I would prefer not to slice them open as I'm putting my pants on. The 3 times a year I'm able to even get out on sheet ice these days. So
my NHL team isn't paying for these.
This episode is brought to you by 1010. Now, you may have read about this in the New York Times, in Style Magazine, or Forbes, and we're excited to tell you about it. 1010 is an exclusive collection of 10 one-of-a-kind engagement rings designed by 10 of the most distinctive designers working today. Using only diamonds responsibly sourced from Botswana, 10 design masters have each produced a uniquely beautiful commitment ring, and they're available exclusively at BlueNile.com. But when they're gone, they're gone. We all know the diamond engagement ring is iconic. It's a timeless expression of the deepest commitment between two people, and with 1010, it's been beautifully re-envisioned in the hands of 10 modern designers working exclusively with sustainably sourced diamonds. If you're ready to mark a special commitment or looking for a unique and meaningful way to celebrate Valentine's Day, you're definitely going to want to check this out. Again, this exciting limited edition collection of diamond engagement rings is available exclusively at BlueNile.com. Exactly. So the Leafs, Oilers, is interesting to hear the Leafs comments after the game. Obviously, the Oilers win 3-1. There's some questions about the Muzzin penalty, which, Steve, I think you were tweeting about last night, but then tweeted this morning that it probably was a penalty, but maybe not as called.
Yeah, I think the ref got it right.
Okay.
I mean, he was right there, and it's hard to tell from the replay. It wasn't even the worst call of the game.
Right.
You know what I mean? It wasn't great, but it wasn't even the worst call of the game.
I know hockey's close, and I know parity's close, and that sort of thing. But if your game hinges on one penalty call, kill the penalty, right? That's the thing is if you want to win consistently, you got to win better than that. And the Leafs are right up until this Oilers game, they were looking like the best team by far in the Canadian division. Given both teams were tired last night, both had come off, games within 48 hours, but the things the Leafs,
that's the whole season.
Well, exactly, right? And you got in your early 20s. Like, you gotta come on here. The one thing I would say is that they did acknowledge something that I felt that we were all seeing last night, which was the Leafs were playing to contain Draisaitl and McDavid. And I have to give them credit because this is a team that could play zero defense up until, 3 games ago. And they seem to be able to, they're starting to sort of figure some stuff out. And they definitely took it seriously. The problem was that they eliminated a strength to address a weakness.
This is the issue, right? Like I feel like that's 3 straight games for them, and I would include this Oilers game where they've looked really good defensively, but offensively they're still getting their shots. Not so much in the third period last night, but they just don't look as dangerous.
Yeah, and that's kind of scary for a team with $40 million up front.
Jonas Siegel, I think he wrote in his article in The Athletic that their expected goals are 0.75, which is their lowest number in, I think it was 4 years.
That's
which is just crazy.
So that's less than a goal a game, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Their expected goals, though.
I don't care about any statistic until like game 10. I don't.
Oh, okay, fair.
Because and this isn't, we had Dom on and he explained everything, and someone I think put up, Zaitsev is third in game score amongst defensemen, and I'm like, yeah, because he had 3 assists in 2 games against the Leafs out of 4.
Yeah.
One of those assists was he took a shot that got blocked, it landed at someone's feet and they whacked it in. Oh, friggin' Nicholas Lidstrom over here.
Yeah.
Bobby Orr, Paul Coffey. Jesus Lord. Like, it'll wait for there to be enough of a sample size for it to even.
But I think that number matches the eye test where you're like, okay, this number is extremely low of the Leafs the last 3 seasons. And then we've seen them struggle offensively. So you can take something from that number.
One thing I will say that Dom said too, and Steve, I think you might have been getting to this, is Dom ran his model 50,000 times before spitting out the number.
How crazy!
We're 4 games in,
yeah,
right? That was the thing. Is like I've run this season 50,000 times. Now, the Leafs playing sound defensive hockey is good. They'll figure out the offense. You know that the skill is there, and this is the whole thing about regular seasons: is there is adjustment periods. That's the point, especially for a team that you think is bound for the playoffs. The point is to figure it out in the regular season and then be what you are, establish what you are in that final, in a regular year, 20 games, the final 25% of the year, and then be that team in the playoffs and hope that it takes you all the way. And if you look at any of the really great teams, the ones that come in hot, they are the teams that are the most themselves and play to their strengths and manage their weaknesses. The Leafs, it's so nice to have them be responsible defensively. But they did say last night, and Chris Johnson reported on this in sportsnet.ca, they stopped playing Leaf hockey and just look to contain 2 guys. And you can shut down the Oilers by doing that, but you're not going to score a lot. And I wonder if, is there a strategy to letting them sort of run wild in the first 10 minutes? So do you, the thing is that like everybody talks about, and this is just a total random question, and I'm not a hockey coach, so who the hell knows? But I wonder, with the amount of skill that the Leafs have, is there anything wrong with setting the precedent early of like an absolutely crushing offense that's pushing? And then if they can play this sort of lockdown thing that they sort of are trying to learn, why wouldn't you try to get your goals early, get them off their game, and then lock it down like they did? Because really, that first goal should not have gone in. That's hockey, but it shouldn't have gone in.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't trust them and they haven't earned it.
Okay.
That's my answer. Like,
okay.
No, and listen, there's logic to what you're saying. There's definitely logic to what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense. But, we always complained about every Babcock season looked identical and it was driving us insane. They would be stupid out of the gate, and they would do whatever they could to bank points in the first 10 to 15 games. Then they would play 2 months of NyQuil. Like, it was awful. And they never really got the hang of it. And they never really got it back offensively. And they were just this Frankenstein of terrible that would still somehow push Boston to 7. I don't mind them being this right out of the gate and then becoming what they are. You know what I mean? I still feel like I'm thinking about what I would change about last night. And the most important thing to me is I look at the 6 defensemen and I go, they were all pretty good. Yeah. Like, how many nights do the Leafs have 6 defense? Well, they had 7 playing. How many nights do the Leafs have 6 or 7 defensemen in the lineup? They all look good and they lose. It's not often.
Not often. Well, because you could stop the sentence at how often do they have 6 defensemen in the lineup that look good?
Exactly.
That's where the sentence ends.
It's
right?
so rare. It's
Never.
so incredibly rare. So I think the offense is going to come. Like I thought Freddie had it today. He's like, it's going to happen. What I am worried about though is so now they're down Thornton. They don't have Robertson to call on because he's out too. That left side is vulnerable. That left side.
Or it's an opportunity.
He's next man up, is he not?
Adam and Jesse just nailed it in different words. We do need some special performances out of unexpected names. Jimmy Vesey's got to come up big. Ilya Mikheyev needs to learn how to shoot. Is Zach Hyman going to get his role back? But then even if Zach Hyman does get his role back, who's going to fill in for him? Is it going to be Travis Boyd there on the third line? Is Adam Brooks going to get into the lineup? Is Barabanov going to show that he deserves ice time? And notice I didn't name any of the stars. Matthews scored last night. Someone was tweeting me like, "Oh, what's Matthews' excuse tonight?" I'm like, "He scored. He was the only one who did. What are you talking about?" Like, I think Mitch will get it done. He got it done. He was their number one star in 2 games. Austin's going to get it done. Willie's going to get it done.
John Tavares,
he
like the league leader in scoring.
Yeah, he's been getting it done on the power play. He's had that killer instinct there. And I thought all those guys looked good for a big chunk of last season, even in the bubble. They need scoring from depth. They need scoring from depth. And now, you see people go, "Oh, well, it helped to have Andreas Janssen. Oh, it would help to have Kasperi Kapanen." This was the problem last year too. So just guys need to step up. Guys need to step up. Who's next? Who's next? I need to see that this team can call upon someone who's just going to randomly have a 2-point night. Barabanov, hey, he got us first. Woo. Like, who's it going to be? Who's it? Spezza? It can be Spezza. It doesn't have to be a young guy. It doesn't have to be a new guy.
Mm-hmm. Could be
Simmons gets his first. That'd be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's been close. He's been close a few times.
He has been close.
And he's played well.
He steps up in the lineup.
I wonder about that too, and I think that, obviously Zach Hyman has a lot more finish, based on what we saw last year than we previously thought. I mean, there's a 20 goal scorer there on a normal year. He can do that. The question is what do you subtract from? What do you take from? Anthony Petrelli from Maple Leaf Hot Stove had a really interesting take this morning. And he said, put the best players at the top of the lineup and let the bottom 6 figure it out. Like literally trial by fire here. I almost said trial by combat, but we don't need to reference that. Trial by fire here. Let's see what you got. And if you don't got it, let's see if the other guys got it.
Break a pool cue over your knees and tell everyone we're going to have
auditions.
Tryouts.
Yeah,
auditions. Adam, Jesus.
I'm terrible with quoting. No, but the point is the same. It's can you do this? And, there was a reason they gave Engvall the extension.
All right.
Yo, if they can't put him in the lineup now, trade him.
Buy him out.
Or figure it out. Man, no. Kyle Dubas cannot buy out that contract. You just signed it. You signed it and he immediately turned into a pumpkin. Figure out how to optimize this asset right now.
I wonder what's going on now. There it was like the Mitch
good.
There's a lot of players that sign an extension. I remember when Johnny Gaudreau's and Sean Monahan's extensions kicked in, they had rough years because it's like all of a sudden you're making way more and there's a lot more pressure. And Engvall, it was sort of like, wow, he's a surprise. And then all of a sudden you get $1.25 million, which relative to hockey stars isn't a lot of money, but still is a gigantic wad of cash, right? That's a lot of money.
The way he played after signing that extension combined with the pandemic, I don't think he gets more than $800,000 a year having to re-sign. He might not be back. They might have to just let him go.
Yeah.
So 1.25, buddy, you gotta figure it out. You gotta find a way. I think he can do it. I don't know where he fits.
I think it'll be interesting in the next 5 games to see where he fits. Without Robertson, without Thornton, that's going to be a very interesting thing. I also think that contract was a learning experience in the way it probably in the same way that the Matthews and Marner contract extensions and Nylander contract extensions were learning experiences for the Leafs head office. I mean, there's
a lot of learning experiences for
It
no
was.
lesson to
You gotta
actually be
learn.
learned.
It was. It's unfortunate the lessons had to be learned. But, the one thing I'll say about Lou Lamoriello is a philosophy that I like of his. I don't necessarily love the execution of what he's done recently, but the philosophy that Lou has, which is if you have time, use it. What was the rush to sign Pierre Engvall last year?
I guess
He's a restricted free agent. Where was he going to go?
I guess the thought was because he was very good.
Mhm.
He was very good. And I couldn't gush about him enough in videos. And I remember it was a few consecutive games. I was like, yo, this guy in a normal season right now is scoring at a 40-point pace.
Yep. You said that on the show.
A 40-point pace for a player that tall, that fast, who you can play on the penalty kill. Good Lord. 1.25, 2 years. That's a blessing. And now it's the rock of triumph. Like it's not good. It's not good. And now it's keeping him out of the lineup.
Yes.
Like right? Like if he wasn't making that much money, he'd minimum be on the taxi squad right now.
So Engvall had 15 points in 48 games last year. In the last 20 games, he had 1 point.
And it was a goal against David Ayres.
Yeah. So he had one. So all his 15 points came in the first, or 14 points came in the first 28 games.
That's. I would love to know.
He
okay,
fell off
Jesse,
a cliff.
When did he? Let's do this. When did he sign the deal? What day did he sign the deal?
Wasn't it January? It was like early Jan, wasn't it?
It was like him and Hall signed within not too long of each other.
I can tell if February 12th.
Tiny work.
February 12th. 20.
So he signed February 12th. What game was he on at February 12th?
He was on the 35th game of the season.
For him.
Yeah.
For him.
Yeah.
So he was on like a little slump, but you look at everything that comes before that and you're like, he'll get it back. Go get him, Kyle.
Yeah, at that point, he had gone 8 games without a point.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No, he's got to get into the lineup and he's got to produce. But at this point, getting him in, you'd be forcing it.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be forcing it. If Mikheyev gets hurt, if someone on the penalty kill gets hurt, you call up Engvall. You know he can do that, no problem. But offensively, like they need offense right now, and he's a non-option there.
Mm-hmm.
He's a non-option offensively.
Yeah, and the thing is that the other options, like I like, no matter what, Jason Spezza seems to have just a nose for things around the net. He might not have the reflexes, he might not have the same sort of thing, but to me, it's like, yeah, every once in a while though, he's going to do something that makes you go, wow, that's still Jason Spezza. Wayne Simmons, same thing. It's still going to be like, wow, that's still Wayne Simmons. It might not be the Wayne Simmons of 2015, but it's still Wayne Simmons. And I've been impressed with his play so far. I like what he's doing in front of the net in the power play. For everybody that's saying, well, Nylander should be up in that spot, I would in a vacuum agree with you, but the Leafs' first unit was so bad last year and so stale. If Sheldon Keefe did nothing, what would you be looking at? It's like,
I just don't look at it as the problem.
No, but he's got to change something. And so who's the guy? Who's the odd man out? Well, it's not going to be Tavares. It's not going to be Marner. It's not going to be Matthews. It's not going to be Riley. It's going to be Nylander, right? So that's what happens. That's why the change is made. The point I'm trying to make here in a belabored sort of way is what can we see from guys? These like is Boyd anything? Probably not.
Boyd might slot into the third line right wing if Hyman comes up from his right wing spot to first line left.
Okay.
All right.
But
and
like, yes, I see the look in your face.
Yeah. The thing we've been hammering away for years, though, is they've always carried all these extra forwards and they've never used them. There's always
and when they haven't done anything.
Right. And then sometimes they'll get into the lineup and then they're nothing. Then they trade them away and they bring in new guys. But it seems like they're never utilizing all these extra guys. They have to at least give them shots to see what we got.
Yeah. And then the one guy who did do anything, Levo, was immediately shipped out of town.
Yeah, because Babs wouldn't freaking play him. But that's boy, I bet you, honestly, if if Dubas is the general manager at that time, I don't think that happens. Or at least if Dubas has his coach in at the right time, that doesn't happen.
There you go. Yeah, but like, listen. Oh, we have 4 lines we can roll. We got all this depth. Show me.
Yeah.
Show me. Like, we're talking about the team and the coach. Get in the lineup. Put the friggin' puck in the net. Any of you. Boyd, Brooks, if it comes to it. Joey Anderson, if it comes to it. Spets. Anyone who's not one of the big 4, friggin' score.
Right.
Not Hyman either.
Is Igor Korshkov, is he on loan?
I think he's still in Europe.
Okay.
There's another guy you just look at trading. Like, it's not going to happen.
Or use him.
Yeah, or use
like
him.
Bring him over and use them. I don't know.
I don't think they can.
Joey Anderson has been added to the taxi squad, so we may see him. Nick Batan's been Nick Batan, right? It's sort of like Dennis Malgin's still there.
Loan.
Kenny Agostino. But you've got SDA, Hallander, and Korshkov all on loan. I think it's kind of like sink or swim time, guys. Like let's see somebody who actually wants this. And with the camp that Adam Brooks had, I certainly hope that he gets a shot because he seems like, man, it's a make or break for him. Like, really, this is it. What is he, 22 now?
No, he's 25. I think he was drafted old.
Yeah,
Adam Brooks
24,
is 24. He'll be 25 in May.
So now,
there you go.
So now would be the time. And if I'm looking for a
time, and I think he's got it.
Put him in.
Adam Brooks, put in. Literally, just look at practice and who looks the most hungry.
Yeah,
who looks the most hungry. Don't worry about X's and O's.
So I've had a few messages, Steve, and I want to make you aware of this. Okay.
Oh.
So and Jesse, I think you've picked up on this too. Steve, you've been since the start of this season, which is not very old, a little hard on these Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah. Okay.
And there are fans who are pointing out that, listen, I don't understand. I mean, they're top of their division. Why doesn't Steve believe in them? Why does just saying, hang on. Why is he being so hard on these guys that are performing, but maybe not performing necessarily to the level that we'd hoped?
It's also 4 games in.
And Steve, you were hard on them last year, as we all were, because they freaking deserved it. They didn't make the playoffs. But my thing to that is this. If you're expecting, I know we're fans on this show. I know that we're fans of the Leafs. I get it. We sometimes get tagged as a Leafs only podcast. We're not. We talk about the entire NHL and big stories that happened, but we always break down the Leaf game because
Coyotes.
Yeah. No, but we're always talking about the big things that are happening around the league. But this is obviously, we love the Toronto Maple Leafs here, and we're going to talk in depth about the organization and the game. And frankly, it's the center of the universe. At what point, as a fan, and this is the question I have for our listening audience, and this can be, you don't have to be a fan of the Leafs. At what point are we, especially Steve, not supposed to hold these guys to a Stanley Cup winning level? Doesn't mean Steve's not a fan, right? But at what point are we like, hey, our threshold for bullshit is not very low right anymore. We have this much patience. You guys are NHL veterans now. At what point do we say, okay, guys, it's kind of time to perform? And that's where I think if you're getting that feeling from us or from Steve, I think there's a little bit of like, we expect him to win the division. That's the expectation.
So I was just looking down at my phone.
Okay.
This is season 14 of LFR, just LFR videos. Okay. That means 11 82 game seasons, plus last year that was 70, plus 2013 that was 48, plus the 5 this season. That is 1,025 Leaf games, which is why I don't get too excited about 4. You know how many years they've started hot and just gone like now I've stopped paying attention to the stuff on the surface, and I just go, what's going to help us come playoff time? What's going to help this team come second week of May this year? What's going to help them? And to be honest, I do see things out of this team that make me believe in them more than in a few recent years. Through 5 games, honestly, like this is already looking like the best defense they've assembled in the Matthews era.
What a breath of fresh air TJ Brody's been.
Oh my God. Yeah. He had like a tough first couple games. Justin Hall.
Yeah.
Justin Hall's been unreal.
Yeah, he has.
He's been really good.
He needs
Muzzin,
to be.
I think Muzzin's been very good. Like Bogosian's probably their worst defenseman, but like he's a good worst defenseman. And I mean that as a compliment. Dermott's been fine. Lettinen, I haven't seen enough of to judge. There's potential there. Riley still looks like he's got more to give, but like I know he'll give it. It's Morgan Riley, so that's got me jacked about this team. But until I see them put it all together, I'm not going to make up fairy tales in my head. Look, I've done that too many times. I've made up fairy tales too many times in my head, guys. Like I'm optimistic about a lot of things. And also everyone, as long as I'm the one being critiqued here, can we decide what I am? Am I a biased Laughs fan, Leafs homer? Or am I pessimistic, short end of the stick, glass half empty guy who's too hard in this team and I'm the reason they don't sign here? I calls it like it sees it.
Maybe you're just the hero that lived long enough to become the villain, Steve.
Wow. Or maybe I'm the hero Toronto deserves.
That could be.
Yeah.
That could
I feel like I learned a lot about sports and the way I look at teams when the Raptors won the championship in 2019. Because like I looked at that team throughout the regular season, like I was down on them because Kawhi had played like 5 total games with the entire starting lineup intact, and then they went to the playoffs and they peaked because that's what they were built to do. And like you look at these teams and you're like, okay, the regular season doesn't really matter. Like they went that year and they beat Milwaukee, who was the number 1 seed, because Toronto peaked during those 4 games after losing the first 2, and they made it to the finals. And it's like that's my expectations now for the Leafs. It's like, okay, I'm looking at this team and we just get through the regular season, but are you going to peak in the 2 months from end of May through June to win 4 out of 7 games in a playoff series? That's when you got to be good. Who cares where you finish in the regular season? Mm-hmm. Just get good enough to the end of the point where you're at game 83 and you start the playoffs and you're the best you can be and you can win 4 rounds and win the Stanley Cup, because that's the ultimate goal.
There was an annoying thing that we were saying towards the pause last season. Well, you know what? Leafs have been up and down. They've struggled a bit recently, but they have 2 very good recent wins against Tampa. Remember that? They went into the pause against Tampa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know why the Leafs beat Tampa? Because the Leafs were trying their absolute hardest, and Tampa was not. Because they didn't have to.
Yeah.
What's Tampa trying hard on a Thursday for? It's not the playoffs. We're Tampa. You do your thing. The Leafs. We better really pull up our socks for this team that's competing with the Panthers and Blue Jackets for the last playoff spot in the conference. They weren't afraid. Mm-hmm. They weren't worried about the Leafs. That's why the Leafs beat them. So it was like, wasn't there a year where the Raptors, like, didn't they like beat LeBron and the Cavs every time, or they were like
in the regular season? Yeah, DeMar and Kyle, a bunch of those years, they would dominate Cleveland during the regular season, and then they'd reach the playoffs and they get swept in 4 games.
Yeah, because
they couldn't win the playoffs.
Yeah,
because LeBron's like half jogging up the court. He's all bloated and gassy because it's Taco Tuesday, and like he's not even taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And then he casually, that was the most disrespectful friggin' buzzer beater I've ever seen in my entire life. That game, the game 1 in, what was that, 2018?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was the year before. Oh my God.
Yeah. The second that basketball went in, I'm like, they're never winning a championship ever.
Because those 82 games are just the precursor to the actual season for him. Like he's about rings. He's practicing for the 82 so he can go out and he can win 16 games when the playoffs start.
Yep. And he tortured the Eastern Conference for God knows how long.
8 straight
years. And now
years.
the Western Conference is now evacuating like it's a hurricane zone. Like everyone's leaving because of a 36-year-old man. That's greatness. Anyway, getting back to hockey.
No, you hope Matthews is that guy. We hope Mitch Marner and Matthews and Nylander, Tavares, that core group turns into these guys who are killers and they want to win in the playoffs.
And I think they want it. And I feel like we're starting to see seeds of it actually being possible. Like, there was no way, guys. Like, who the hell was anyone kidding that the Leafs were going to do anything with Cody Ceci playing top line minutes with Morgan Riley last year? It just wasn't going to happen. And Pittsburgh fans are now getting a nice old dose of what that looks like. It's just not going to happen. But this is the first team where you're like, okay, legitimate defense. They seem to have it together.
We got to the trade deadline, right? And I'm pretty sure I said at several points last season, this team's not going to do anything with Cody Ceci as they're on their number one pair. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything. And then the trade deadline came and went, and he was still on the top pair, and I got 35 more videos to make. Like,
yeah.
What do you want me to go? Welcome to LFR, but there's no points. No, I was doing the same thing you were, hoping for a miracle, and it didn't come. All right. So this year, I'm looking at it, and it's way better. The defense is way better. Okay. Have they taken away from a strength to address a weakness? Yeah, kind of. But I'm confident enough in that strength that it'll be back. But I've asked this a few times. Where's the Leafs miracle guy? Where's their surprise? They don't have enough surprises.
I thought Nick Robertson might be, but then stupid knee injury and just shit.
Yeah, even
like
he's
that
not
was
really
a
surprise. Even he's not. Nick
He'd
Robertson,
be a surprise if he potted 20 in 50 games.
Yes, as a rookie.
Yes.
But I'm talking, I need Travis Boyd to come in and we all go, where's this guy been our whole life?
Yeah, well, who's our William Karlsson?
Or Barabanov or anybody. Like, where's that guy? We needed that guy. You know, here I am criticizing the organization and I'm criticizing the coach. Like, you got it. Who's up next? Or who's got next?
Mm-hmm.
The Raptors, that was the craziest thing about last year. The Raptors had like 3 healthy players. And they just kept bringing people up. And it was the most fascinating thing in the world to watch. The Raptors really screwed so much up for the Leafs in this market in terms of expectations.
By being good?
Well, and just what I expect from a team.
Yeah.
Like, even last year's team, to me, was so much more impressive than the team that actually won.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you lose a player who's like Nate McKinnon level in hockey, or not necessarily Connor McDavid, because if LeBron and Connor McDavid are the same or something like that, but we're talking Draisaitl, McKinnon, Matthews level, and still performs the same in the regular season. It
was like the Avalanche winning without Makar, McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog.
Yeah,
like they were. Didn't they have? Wasn't there a buzzer beater from was it Stanley Johnson?
No, it was who's it? It wasn't
against Philly.
Versus Boston. In the playoffs, you mean?
No, that was OG.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about, it was a regular season bubble game against Philly. And it was this dude who was he's literally like their 12th player or something like that. Like, we need that.
Mm-hmm.
We need that. This year, the Raptors are like, we have no shot of winning unless we get something out of Chris Boucher. Guess what? And I bet they thought Aaron Baines was going to be better. But at very least, Chris Boucher, there he is. Hey, look at that.
Yeah. Yep.
Who's this year's friggin' guy? Like, this is going to sound heartless, and there's no Marlies this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how many words have I spent over the past, since he was drafted? He was drafted 2016. How many words have I spent over the last 4.5 years on Adam Brooks?
I don't know.
It's a waste of breath unless he goes in the lineup and does anything. Like, one day I'm going to be an old man. I'm going to be, let's say 120. That's how long I'm planning. And it's going to be on my deathbed. It's, Steve, what have you done with your life? I spent the better part of 5 years talking about Pierre Engvall has all the tools. He just can't bury it. Like, Just do it! Someone! For God's sake!
This whole conversation has just been about you want the bottom six to score goals.
Yes!
Yeah.
Like that's what we won against Columbus too, because that was the real problem with the Leafs. They just didn't pot anything.
Yep. Yeah.
The
And
defense
I
was
don't,
all right.
and I don't think Kapanen and Janssen were going to make the difference on that one. I don't,
All
Janssen
you-
I was a bigger fan of, to be honest.
All of you right now, all of you, we're all battling it with this pandemic thing, and you're probably feeling a little lonely and you miss some of your friends. So ask yourself this: how much time have you spent thinking at all about Pierre Engvall over the past few months versus how much time have you spent speaking to a person that you want to speak to? Your answer is going to be the same as mine, so pause the show immediately and call them. Enough. Stop talking about Brooks or Engvall or Barabanov or any of them until they do anything. And I like all of those players, but history doesn't talk about potential. History is about what happened.
Okay.
Be what happened. Be what's happening. Stop being what could have been.
Right. Okay.
Be what happened and be what's happened.
Happy New Year's from our sponsor, Manscaped. Now, Manscaped, as you know, is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and it's here to help you have clean balls in the new year. Ring in the new year with the right tools for the job. Now, we want to give you, with Manscaped, a New Year's resolution that you'll actually want to keep. The Perfect Package 3.0. It is the below-the-waist grooming package you need to start the new year off strong. And it starts with, you ready for this? The Lawnmower 3.0. This waterproof and skin-safe trimmer will reduce nicks to your two best friends, and it even has a little light so you can shine a light on the promised land and shine a light on the promise that 2021 has to be for that area and beyond. It's also time to freshen up down there this new year with quote-unquote the Crop Preserver. It's an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. You already put deodorant on your armpits. Why are you not putting them on the smelliest part of your body, right? And for on-the-go freshness, you'll love the Crop Reviver Ball Toner Spray. Seriously, start the new year off with a fresh set of testes, thanks to Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code SDP at manscaped.com. Again, it's 20% off and free shipping with the code SDP at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Just use that code SDP. New year, new balls. Fair enough. Moving on, the Mike Babcock article with The Athletic. Now, obviously, there are, as I mentioned earlier on the show, some pretty emotional reactions to this. And Pierre LeBrun sort of, interestingly enough, highlights certain parts. What do you want to hear about with an interview with Mike Babcock? Well, you want to hear his side of the story. Some people don't. You want to hear his side of the story on what he has to say about himself, right? That's the goal. So he actually highlights in the article the Mitch Marner, the Johan Franzen and stuff like that. And what I'm not going to do is go through the entire article like people do and go, well, let's scan through this. I want to take a couple pieces. Okay. First thing is the Mitch Marner incident.
Well, here, and let me say it. So Pierre LeBrun is being accused of writing basically a puff piece and like a PR.
Well, I do want to talk about that. But I want to.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Until you hear this.
We'll wait.
Let Adam set it up.
Only.
Does Adam know what he's doing? Did we discover that while he was gone? Shit. Okay. Sorry.
So I want to take you through these pieces first, and then I want to discuss exactly what you mentioned there, Steve. So, with regards to the quote about the Mitch Marner incident, here's what Mike Babcock had to say, according to the Pierre LeBrun article on The Athletic. So Mitch was in my office. We were talking about work ethic. I asked him where he ranked on the scale, and that was no problem. That was just a private thing. It was a good meeting. Mitch left, and then I was meeting, I'm pretty sure it was with Tyler Bozak afterwards. Bozy was an important part of our team. What I ended up doing, and I made a big mistake, I knew as soon as I did it, when we were talking about competing, I said, well, look where Mitch ranks it. As soon as I did that, he saw the list. I knew I'd made a major mistake. After the meeting with Bozak, I went right into the dressing room. I grabbed Mitch and said, Mitch, this is what I did. I screwed you here. Babcock said he offered right then and there to Marner to air out the coach's mistake with the team. Marner declined. And you got to remember, Mitch Marner's like 18 when this happened. But for those who said Babcock went into the dressing room and posted Marner's list up for all to see, that's not true, Babcock said. He said, now, in saying that, what I should have done in hindsight is I should have stopped everybody and said, this is what I did to Mitch. I screwed him. Now, he didn't want to make a big deal of it, but I could have made a lesser deal of it. But for anyone to think Mitch Marner and Mike Babcock didn't have a relationship or Mitch didn't play great for me or anything like that, they're sadly mistaken. He does go on to say that there might have been Bozak that leaked the information to the room.
What? So it's Bozak's fault then?
Well, it's okay. So this is what I don't want to.
Where now, sorry. Before I go off on that too much, where do you get that impression?
I get the impression that because again,
Can you read the Bozak part again? Just one more time.
There is we talked about this last show. There's a stank on it.
Okay. So now in saying that, so he says, I'm just trying to pick out the Bozy part. Well, as soon as I did that, he saw the list, as in Bozak saw the list, and I knew I'd made a major mistake. After meeting with Bozak, I went right into the dressing room. I grabbed Mitch and I said, Mitch, this is what I did. I screwed you here. Babcock said he offered right then and there to Marner to air out the coach's mistake with the team. Marner declined. But for those who said Babcock went into the dressing room and posted the list up for all to see, that's not true, Babcock said. He said, now in saying that, what I should have done in hindsight is I should have stopped everybody and said, this is what I did to Mitch. I screwed him. Now, he didn't want to make a big deal of it, but I could have made a lesser deal of it. But for anyone to think that Mitch Marner and Mike Babcock didn't have a relationship or Mitch didn't play great for me or anything like that, they're sadly mistaken.
So low key, Babcock is saying Bozak told everybody in the room about the list.
Well, because how else did it get out?
Interesting.
How else would it have gotten out?
That's shady. I don't know.
Well, what I didn't like, and I said this last show, is, well, that was a private thing that he threw in there with Mitch. Buddy, you were the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Nothing's private.
Do not rely on that. And don't rely on something that is now, is leaked to the entire room. Yeah, friggin' A right. You should have gotten in front of it and said to the entire room, this is what I did.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I did. But, so we talked about this. And like I've said, is what Mike Babcock did to Mitch Marner, by all accounts, is it so bad? I think it's bad. It's bad and he shouldn't have done it. Is it so bad that he should never coach again?
I would have serious questions at the NHL level that if that's how you're motivating people.
I would have serious questions. But that's not the question.
Right.
It's the question. Right. The question is not, would you hire him? I wouldn't. The question is, should he be allowed? And what I came away with is he should probably be allowed. I don't want my team doing it though. But sometimes we get so passionate about that story that we forget about all the other ones.
Right.
The Modano thing, that's an annoying thing. The other stuff I've heard, the Jeff O'Neill screaming that he's a bad guy from talking to players.
So can I interrupt you on this one?
Sure.
Johan Franzen.
It's the worst one. It's the worst. He went to a center for vets with PTSD.
So let me read the quote about Johan Franzen because he addresses it. And this, Steve, to push your point forward, I want to read this and I want to get your thoughts on it because I think you're going to have some thoughts on this. I think you're going to have some thoughts. How about that for
maybe
work?
31?
No, 32. No. So can you imagine having someone say that? This is what Mike Babcock had to say about Johan Franzen.
It's not a good start.
Can you imagine having someone say that about you when you've been involved in mental health as much as I have? Now, I have reached out to Franzen. That's not going to make anything go away. It doesn't matter what I perceive. When you're talking about this kind of thing, if the person, whether it's a coworker, your spouse, your student, if they think that's the environment, that's what they're feeling. Now, I sure wish I would have known about it then, and I could have done something about it. Besides apologize, there's not much I can do about it now. But does it sting? Does it hurt? Absolutely. Your whole plan as a coach and as a parent is to provide the best opportunity for everyone to be the best they can be. And that's what you do to have success. And you can't have success year after year in any league without a good environment. It just doesn't happen. Now,
can you guys run over the Johan Franzen incident one more time?
Go ahead, Steve.
Well, if I'm remembering correctly, so he battled some pretty terrible concussions.
Yes.
And basically just the long and short of it is Babcock had his targets, and it was often the quiet guys in the team.
Mm-hmm.
And the more those guys left the team, the more Franzen became the target. And basically he just didn't want to go to the rink anymore. Yeah. Didn't want to get on the ice. And that's a guy who should still be playing. But because of everything he's been through, he can't.
So, and to add some more to that, it talks too a little bit about, there's a Spit and Chicklets episode where Chris Chelios alleges that Mike Babcock verbally assaulted Franzen during a playoff series with Nashville. And Franzen said in an interview with Expressen, which is a Swedish interview that we've also been featured in, believe it or not, called Mike Babcock a great coach, but a terrible person and a bully.
Man, and so you do a recurring piece of criticism here is, well, my coach screamed at me and we won the blue. Bro, I promise you, I do not care what your AA coach when you were 14 did that helped you get some high school championship, as if it's applicable to the NHL level. You know what I mean? I'm always getting tweets from these people. Well, I played at a high level, bro. It's like,
I'm sorry, but let me just throw this out there. If you played at double or even AAA, it's not really high level hockey. High level hockey is junior A, junior B, OHL. Sorry, it's just not.
It's high for me.
Well, it's high for me too. I didn't get past single A. But don't pretend unless you are like high level is semi-pro or junior, just below. That's high level.
But I'm not trusting you to remove one of my kidneys because you used to work at a deli. There's levels to this.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
You went home to your parents. This wasn't your paycheck.
So there's that. But for all of you, this isn't a bunch of bleeding heart, kids these days. This is Chris Chelios saying that he did that. And Jeff O'Neill and other, older school guys who I've spoken to. You look at Mitch Marner and you go, oh, he was just being a whiny kid. That's one guy. One story. Mike Modano can't stand this human being. Jeff O'Neill and his friends can't stand this human being. Other people I've spoken to. Keep it going. Keep it going.
Just to give you an idea, too, Chris Chelios is no quote-unquote snowflake. His book from 2014 entitled Chris Chelios, Made in America, is available right now.
Oh, God.
On thriftbooks.com for $8.69 or $17.79 at Amazon.ca.
Yeah, well,
Chris Chelios, Made in America.
Made in America. Chris Chelios.
I always love that book name. I just think that's amazing.
What's the picture on the cover?
It's him with the Stanley Cup in Detroit.
So be draped in a bald eagle.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that anybody from the United States could technically write a book about themselves and say Made in America.
Made in America.
That's what's so funny about that title. It's just and 360 other million people. But okay. I don't.
Anyway, here. Yeah. Sorry, we're getting off track here.
Well, which is what we do.
Of course. Stop making excuses for this guy. Stop acting like all he did was he yelled a few times.
No, he didn't.
We're not talking about Bruce Boudreau, going, oh, you guys and blah, 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 blah. Even John Tortorella, that guy, he's a screamer, but I don't know if he's destroys you psychologically
or intentionally does.
Or intentionally.
It's not the yelling. It's the intentional, I'm going to break you down.
Yeah.
Over time.
There's something gross here, man. There's something gross here that does not feel right. It doesn't pass the test. And it's such a unique situation, or an interesting situation, because it's not one big thing where you pound the gavel and you go, throw him away, Your Honor. Officially canceled. This guy's getting like a lifetime achievement award of beat it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's not being canceled.
Well, and there was
quote
a lot
unquote
of people
canceled
that
for
said,
one thing he did.
when this happened, there's a lot of people that said, well, there's a lot of coaches that players don't get along with. Yeah, but there's not a lot of players coming out and saying, I went to a center for PTSD after I had this coach. There's a difference. Like, let's not conflate two different things here. I have many bosses I didn't like, and I'm sure they didn't like me either. Not many bosses, a couple bosses. But it doesn't mean that I would say, I don't even have anything bad to say about them these days. Like, you know, they were not abusive. We just didn't agree.
If you listen to the way older hockey guys talk about Mike Keenan as coach, none of them will say he's a bad coach, but it's always with the flavor of, yeah, but I'm glad he's in Russia now.
Yeah,
know
like,
I mean?
almost like I don't wish him well.
Yes. And maybe you don't have to. Well, and the other thing, well, gets results. You're acting like the only coaches to ever win the Stanley Cup were total assholes. Like, that's the only way to win. The only way to win is to freaking just psychologically assassinate everyone on your team. Franzen said it wasn't just players too, which bothered me. You know, like, not that you should be doing it to players, but he made it sound like it was employees as well. Now, I didn't hear that coming out of Toronto, but it sounds like that was potentially a thing that happened in Detroit. It's ugly, man. It's ugly.
That brings us to another issue that Steve sort of broached as we were entering the subject. And that is that there were a lot of people who said this seems like a PR piece for Mike Babcock. There's a lot of people that criticize Pierre LeBrun for writing the article because he didn't push back on Bab's answers hard enough. And if you read the article, he gets specific with the Mitch Marner story, doesn't get specific at all with the Franzen story, doesn't address anything specifically, which I found
only
very
talks about his feelings.
Yeah,
he only talks about his feelings about it.
Exactly. And I think when people are like, well, this reads like a PR piece for Mike Babcock, if that's the case, number one, it doesn't look good on Mike.
Yeah,
if that's the case.
If that was Pierre's mission, he failed.
Yeah, this doesn't make him look better. None of this makes it look good.
I didn't see a lot of reaction that was like, bring on Mike. Great. Good.
Oh yeah,
Give me some more Mike. Wish he was still here.
Not at all. There's not even, like, you don't read it and go, well, I'm sympathetic to this guy now. He certainly is sympathetic to himself, but I didn't get the sense that when I read that article, I didn't feel like I didn't feel any sort of like, oh, Mike's trying to repair his PR. I thought this doesn't make him look particularly much better than we thought.
No,
it just doesn't. The second thing I would say is that at a certain point, from a journalistic perspective, I think Pierre's goal here is to say, here is the meal on the platter, and you be the judge of how it tastes. Meaning that it's not Pierre's job to be the jury here. It's our job. We're reading it. So he's saying, here's what the man thinks about these situations that we've heard about in the last 18 months since he was fired. Here's what he thinks. Here's what he has said. And if you have a judgment to make on that, I'm not going to make it for you.
I think
it's your judgment to make. And I think that's the right call. We need to hear Mike Babcock as Mike Babcock. Here it presented. This is what Mike thinks about Mike.
I think Pierre's the wait staff. Like, look, he just brought it over.
Yeah, 100%. He presented it to you.
Yeah, so, and all the snippets that were put on Twitter, people, judging the piece. I barely saw any of Pierre's words. It was all just quotes.
He just said, "Here's what he said."
Yeah, and I wanted to see it because that has been a weird missing thing throughout all this. Is he basically hasn't spoken.
And he says in the article that he doesn't want to, or he didn't want to. So now he's going to be on NBC. He has to speak.
Yeah. Yes, man. Like for him to talk about anything, what is he just going to get on there with the marker board thing and do X's and O's? Like if a team has a problem with a player, like didn't Evander Kane take like 4 penalties the other night or something like that?
Mm-hmm. So
they bring a coach on and they're doing a Sharks game. But hey, Mike, you ever had a player take 4 penalties in a game? How'd you handle that situation? Now, and we're all going to be going, because now we have an idea of how Mike Babcock handles players. the ones who haven't done anything wrong, let alone those guys. It doesn't look good. Doesn't look good on him. It's one of those things where, like, I don't know. He has the opportunity. I doubt NBC is going to fire him before the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of, just out of perverse curiosity, want to see. I just want to see what he has to say. But I'm not going to have. I don't think I'm going to have much of a stomach for it.
Back to the original point, and I agree with you, Steve. I think there's absolute merit to that. I just think to go after Pierre LeBrun for writing an article of just saying, here's what the man says. Like, I think you need to have, in any hero villain scenario here, you need to have the villain's take on why they're not a villain. You know, Mike does not believe that he's the bad guy here. And you need to know why sometimes. And if Pierre goes and says, well, Mike, if he pushes back on him and starts being judgmental, then the interview's over. And then we don't get the perspective. So the whole point is you're supposed to read it and then go, this does not square with my belief system, which I would agree with you. It doesn't square with mine either.
Well, and also now that he's finally come out and said something, like, I would like to hear from former players of his. I'd like to hear from Johan Franzen, although it's not his job to speak on this. But I would like to hear from guys who are like, that's not true. Or who knows, maybe that is true. Or, you know what we haven't had is someone go to bat for Mike.
No, that's true.
No one's gone to bat for him. And he was fired over a year ago.
And that should speak volumes, right?
It should speak enormous volumes.
No one's defending this man.
No. And, like, Grabowski and Kuhlman had a terrible relationship with Randy Carlyle because Carlyle didn't think they were the greatest hockey players. But, like, you didn't see anything like this.
No.
There wasn't a backlash like this. They were just kind of like, we don't like, Randy, your ass, screw off.
Yeah. You know, you didn't play things right. And you know what? They had some points. Not that Randy's a bad guy.
Oh, for sure.
But we on this show were like, we hated Randy Carlisle's coaching style, but none of us ever said, Randy Carlisle, that's a bad guy. And that's a hockey term, by the way.
Oh yeah, BG, bad guy. That's the big one. That is the worst thing you could call someone in hockey circles is a bad guy.
It is.
And you're finished. Banished. Madagascar. You're done. Bad guy, go to Bad Guy Island. Hang out in Bad Guy Island, also known, by the way, as the Eastern Conference of the KHL.
There you go.
You can always find a job in the Eastern Conference of the KHL.
No, thank you. Now, let's talk about the Capitals being fined $100,000 along with Alexander Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Samsonov, and Orlov, all being put into COVID protocol. Now, it's an important distinction to make here. COVID protocol does not mean that you have COVID. It just means that you're in protocol, meaning that they are monitoring the situation. And that doesn't mean that when these guys, because what happened was they hung out in a hotel room without their masks on. That is against league policy. The Capitals were fined $100,000 and those guys are suspended and are not suspended. They're in protocol. The reason that's a big deal is obviously it's the starting goalie, the captain, and two of the better players on the team. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing now, beyond the fact that, Ovechkin came out with a very generic statement saying, I will learn from this, is that his wife posted in Russian on Instagram today that he and I believe Kuznetsov have COVID-19 antibodies.
Yeah, I will not learn from this, actually. It was.
And that it's therefore okay.
It was a journey through English. Her English is better than my Russian.
Yeah.
But the impression I got was not, I will learn from this. It's, I am very mad about this. Now, and the antibodies thing, ooh, you lost me. But before that, like, I can understand why those guys would be frustrated about this. So
also, can I read the statement from her?
Please do.
Go for it. It's a journey.
This was the Russian to English translation. I'll just read it. Of course, only Russian players of Washington Capitals were together in the same hotel room. Of course, all of the other NHL players, when playing away, separating themselves from their teammates. Of course, you can't catch the virus when you and your teammates sit together on the bench, hug each other when they score a goal, or when they are all together in the lounge or locker room. Players can't get infected when they're at the restaurants, supermarkets, malls, etc. Virus only works in hotel room. The one who came up with this rule, obviously very logical. By the way, both Alexander Ovechkin and Dmitry Orlov have antibodies. Unfortunately, not everyone is competent in their antibodies' value and properties. So there's obviously a lot of sarcasm in that.
Yeah, I don't know what that last sentence means.
Yeah.
But there's something there. So she's very upset.
That's the thing. There are points in there where you're like, all right.
Objectively true.
Yeah.
Well, like, okay, so I guess we don't 100% know exactly what she did, or they did.
They hung out in a hotel room without masks on, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
If that's all they did, then this is a little bit preposterous.
Yeah.
Right, but I think didn't the NBA do the same? The NBA went after somebody. The NFL also had a pretty severe. Somebody was fined like a 7th round pick in the NFL for something similar, like very small. They're trying to set a precedent.
I know they're trying to set a precedent. Yeah, and I like the pick and choosiness. Like, okay, so I've been watching the Raptors. What does Nick Nurse wear a mask for? It spends half the game down here. I actually watched him do this to talk to a ref. Should that not just be a fine on the spot if they're that important?
All the coaches in all the sports that are going on right now need to learn how to keep the mask up, because they're all doing that thing where they pull it down to yell at the ref. Yeah.
If I could for just a second, the one issue she has in that post, I don't think objectively that you can't get COVID at the grocery store. You're absolutely right. You can get it on the bench hugging and whatever it is.
Yeah.
The point is, it's on NHL time. When you are on NHL time,
to minimize the risk.
Yes. When the team is paying for the hotel room, when you are representing the team, and you are representing the team even when you're not playing for the team at that exact minute, when you're in that hotel room, when you're breaking those rules, that's when the NHL doesn't want to enforce these rules. No. But you made them by being stupid like this.
And if Evgeny Kuznetsov goes down to the grocery store and he wants to buy a chocolate bar, and then he goes and he buys a chocolate bar, hey guys, I'll be right there. And he somehow contracts it at the grocery store. And now he goes up to the hotel room and they're hanging out. And now he's giving it to his friends. You know what I mean? Or
that's the spirit of why the rules are there. And but Steve, he could go to the grocery store on his own time. Right? Like, let's say the Caps are back in Washington, and Kuznetsov goes to the grocery store, doesn't wear a mask, and catches COVID. That's not on the NHL's time, right?
God,
it's not the NHL's problem at that point. But when they are sitting in a hotel room, it's the NHL's problem. So what the NHL is saying is, listen, guys, don't make it our fucking problem, or we'll make it a problem for you. That's what it is. You're on our front lawn right now. When you're off our front lawn, do whatever the hell you want. We just don't want to know. But when you're on our lawn, when you're in our house, you're doing this. And this is what you're doing. And fair. Alexander Ovechkin, top 5 player in the sport, you're sitting out. Don't care.
Yeah. If the rule is, hey, you got to distance when you're off the ice, and they don't do it, then it's plain and simple. Because like, hey, no, we're paying. This is on the team money. You know, you got to listen to the rules.
And they're paying money, and they're paying at a loss.
Yeah.
Are the rules silly? You can have that debate. Are the rules a secret? No. You know what they are.
Yes.
You know, it's your fault. It's your fault.
And you're only protesting them
because
you get caught. Yeah. You could have protested them at any other point, but you're protesting them now? Interesting.
Well, and do you
think if you thought the rule was unfair, then bring it up before the season starts?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and now players know. And like what you said about precedent. Can we do this? The Washington Capitals have been fined $100,000. No, we cannot. Are they actually going to enforce this? Oh, holy shit, yes. Turns out they are. It's just if you're on the Caps or a fan of the Caps, you're not feeling too good about it. And I totally understand. If this happened to the Leafs, but
imagine if it happened in the Toronto.
Of course I can imagine. Who knows? Like,
Oh, the media.
It's probably going to
fallout would be
happen
ridiculous.
more.
Yep.
But now it's less likely to happen probably because we're a week in and they dinged a pretty high profile guy. Boy, really unfortunate. What a weird.
At what point can these private leagues, the four major sports leagues and all these big organizations go to Pfizer or Moderna and buy their vaccines directly?
Okay, Charles.
When are we going to see that happen?
Oh, they're in line.
And when are people going to get upset?
They're in line.
Was this TNT?
They're in line. I can guarantee they're in line right now. They probably, as soon as those became available, I can guarantee you the NHL, the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, they were all in there. I can guarantee it. And by the way, those vaccinations for these players are going to happen a lot sooner than you'd like. Probably sooner than if you're a full health and you're an adult who is not on the front lines of COVID. Probably sooner than you. And you're not going to like it. And I'm not going to like it. But that is the way it's going to be.
And do you know why we know this is going to happen? Because they already set the precedent back in March when they bought all the testing for COVID when the players first started getting it. The first people to have the tests were the NBA players and the NHL players. And
the rapid test.
The rapid test. Yeah. They bought them all and they started testing. And then we developed this thing where like, oh, these should actually go to frontline workers. And then we have now this reasonable lineup. But I think in the months coming up, we're going to see a situation where they can buy these privately and the leagues are going to be fine because they're all going to be protected.
They've already bought them.
Yeah.
This was done.
There.
This has been done for 6 months, guys. I know I'm not alleging anything. I don't know anything, but this has been done. The Canadian government had agreements with 7 different pharmaceutical companies last July. This has been done. The deal is done. It's just a matter of when they ship.
They're waiting for the packet, the Amazon delivery guy?
Yep, absolutely.
Oh
and I can bet you this,
truck.
A private company.
Some guy on the NHL's front porch right now.
a private company is going to be able to do a deal like that faster than a public government. Much faster. That's just the way it is. So you're not going to like when this happens. You're not going to be happy about the fact that athletes are going to get it before you will. And I don't blame you. Not one bit. I wouldn't be happy either, and I won't be either. But just know it's going to happen. Money talks. It's the world we live in. I don't know. Like, I don't know how else to put it. That's what's happening.
Very good.
Well, it is what it is, right? Like, you can't, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Unjust.
Yes.
Yeah.
And listen, there are many ways to fix that, but you're not going to fix it on this round.
No.
Right?
Let's all just prepare ourselves.
It's going to
prepare yourself mentally to get upset.
Yes.
Because I know I am. And it's going to happen.
Get internet angry now so you don't have to be internet angry later. And by the way, do you think Charles Barkley says something like that without knowing something like that?
Yes.
Did he say this? Is this a
Charles Barkley said that players should be vaccinated.
Oh, wow. This is different. What Adam is saying is these leagues are going to buy them.
Right.
Barkley is saying they should get them before everyone else because they make more money and pay more taxes.
Okay, so
because Charles Barkley
I disagree with.
is a funny guy who has an NBA show that I like, but has no idea how the world works.
Right. But that's the thing with Chuck is that's sort of the thing. He's never known how the world works.
Oh. No.
That's Chuck's thing. Everyone's like, he says shit and you're like, really? That's why they put him on TV, because he's the really guy.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking my social advice, and I'm not electing Charles Barkley to office anytime soon. I'll put it that way. I still enjoy the show, though.
Don't rule it out. You know, someone sent me this video of it was a city council meeting from Venice Beach, California.
Oh, geez.
And I'm watching, and it just looks like a boring city council meeting. Like, you know, you see Congress or you see, you know, in Canada, all the MPPs and MPs, and I'm just like, God, this is so boring. But there's something about city council that looks so budget. And then there's this one guy sitting in the middle who has a fire hydrant for a head. And I'm just like, is that Tito Ortiz?
What?
And then Tito Ortiz gets to speak, not because he went to a city council meeting because he had some complaint about a pothole, because he's an elected official enough people, presumably thousands, got together and elected David.
Tito,
That I would believe. Tito Ortiz,
the UFC fighter.
the UFC fighter.
But guys,
Maybe
I don't know what Tito Ortiz's political leanings are. I don't know anything about the UFC really. But let me ask you this, okay?
Not good.
Let me ask you this.
Not big on reading either. We learned from the
whole
videos.
thing. The whole thing with democracy is anyone can run. So
It's a hell of a thing.
it is a hell of a thing. I'm just throwing it out there. He's allowed to run. He should be allowed to run. Now,
Sure is.
on a different.
That said, education is a crisis.
On a different sort of track, Artemi Panarin has come out in support of a political leader by the name of Navalny in Russia. So this is just a quick context on this one. This is probably the foremost opponent to Vladimir Putin in Russia.
Yeah.
Politically.
Foremost surviving.
Yes, because as we know, they all suspiciously end up poisoned. It's weird.
Yeah. Want to get a
and-
place in Russia? Make sure there's no windows.
And I
That's
believe
really
Navalny.
dark.
It's really true. Man,
Navalny,
there are a lot of faulty windows.
Navalny, I believe he was poisoned as well and had to leave and got treatment in Germany.
Man,
Am I
that keeps
right?
happening. It's so
Yeah.
weird.
So he has
weird.
re-entered the country. There's some articles out there. Like I follow English language Russian newspaper that basically it was talking about him re-entering the country and what's the administration going to do? Are they going to kick him back out and look like authoritarian, which they still don't want to look authoritarian? Or are they going to let him be? And then there's the thought of, well, does that make us look weak? That's where Russian politics is at the moment in a very broad sense. I'm sure there's a ton of people that study Russia, listen to the show going, well, there's a lot more nuance to it than that, and that's fine. We're not getting into that here. But Artemi Panarin coming out and supporting and putting a picture of this man and his family on his Instagram page, because he's, by the way, under arrest right now, saying free Navalny, is sort of a big deal. Why, Steve?
Well, we talked about this several studios ago on this podcast. People wanting Alexander Ovechkin to speak out against Vladimir Putin and his many injustices. And I came out and sort of went to bat for Ovechkin because I was like, what do you expect him to do? Like, we just talked about what happened to Navalny. He was poisoned. He had to flee the country. That's what happens to opponents of Vladimir Putin. So in terms of criticizing
Allegedly.
him,
Allegedly.
what's Putin going to sue me? Yeah, sure. Allegedly, I guess.
Allegedly. That's what
Like,
happens.
Yeah. So basically, I was like, what do you expect him to do? Right? So even if he did feel a certain way, what do you expect him to do? Does he feel that way legitimately about Putin or not? Does he feel obligated? I don't know. So that's what we talked about a few years ago. So that's why it's such a big deal for Panarin to come out and criticize him. Now, this isn't the first time Panarin's done it. I know we've talked about it before. Can't remember when. But what was significant, and Eric Engels pointed this out, is that Alexander Radulov liked the photo. So that's, I mean, it's just going click, but it's public support.
Mhm.
And then Zadorov, who's now on the Blackhawks, Nikita Zadorov, then shared Panarin's post on his Instagram story. So that's basically 3 votes of confidence from 3 relatively high-profile Russians, right?
And there was also a Russian soccer player that joined in on this as well.
Was there? So, like, this is a big thing. We weren't talking about this a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if recent events in the world, looks downward, helped people feel emboldened to do this. I don't know, but it is significant, and it's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah. Well, even just maybe it goes nowhere from here, but even just the fact that we're going to speak up and there could be consequences, because remember, it's not just about the player themselves. You think about who you are. You come from a line of people. You have a mom and a dad biologically, and they may have siblings. And those siblings may have kids, and they may have parents. Like, your grandparents could still be alive, and they may have siblings. And what your concern is in a situation like that, or what it can be, is it's not what happens to me. It's what happens to my family, right? I can be here in North America, rich and famous, and I never have to go back. And Panarin still goes back, plays with the Russian team. Like, it's not like it doesn't happen. But you do worry about the little things, the microaggressions that could be very real and real world consequences for people who in your family, your cousin, Alexei, who's not famous. What happens to him?
And, I can spout off on this show because, I don't think I'm ever going to go there, and I stay away from faulty windows and soup with paprika and cyanide. But not everyone has that luxury.
Right. And you got to be careful. So it's very, very interesting to see that happen. And if nothing else, just a subtle act of he did. And the thing is that you notice in that there's nothing aimed at Putin. It's just support for one person. And it's just a very interesting thing. It's an interesting turn of events for Russian players who even I think Nikita Zaitsev, Jonas Siegel asked Nikita Zaitsev years ago, I think it was 2016, 2017, about Putin. And so it was very, very interesting at that point, was, Zaitsev gave the political answer.
Interesting.
Because what was he going to do? Right. So anyway, long story short, very interesting to see that happen, and a bit of a big development there. Now, there is an article on Sportsnet, Sports Illustrated, that I think you should check out. And it is one about, it's by Alex Pruitt. And Alex Pruitt is a senior writer for Sports Illustrated, and it's about the fight over hockey's racial awakening, the difference between, or I guess the differing opinions between the HDA, the Hockey Diversity Alliance, and the NHL itself. Now, it's a very interesting split because nobody really fully understands why they haven't been able to get along. We know the Diversity Alliance exists, and we know that they were trying to work with the NHL, and then they said that they couldn't. We don't know why, right? We really didn't get that. And this article kind of gets into some of the stuff that that may have happened. And obviously, Akeem Aliu is chief among them, and it is a long read. But I think one of the key points that I'd like to highlight about this article, and I don't know if this is unfair or not, but there was a point on a phone call with the HDA, allegedly, again, this is all part of the article, where they were saying the NHL hasn't done enough, the NHL hasn't done enough, the NHL hasn't done enough. And I think we've all sort of acknowledged that, right? We're finally retiring Willie O'Ree's number, and he's getting in the Hall of Fame. So there was a point, evidently, on this call where Gary Bettman got defensive. He got defensive and said, well, we have had initiatives in the past, and where were you for those? To the HDA guys. And then I, took a step back.
Not formed yet?
Right. Where were you guys on those things, I think? Now, I would bet Gary would say not my best moment. But there certainly, it speaks to, I think, and I'm not defending it, but it speaks to the contentious nature that exists between the two organizations. I really want you to check this article out because it is extremely long, but it is extremely important to where the game needs to go and what's happened between this relationship. But you can bet Gary Bettman, who is basically unshakable. You look at him in front of the press every time that there is a labor stoppage or Eugene Melnyk goes and says something crazy or whatever. He's pretty stone-faced. He's pretty lawyerly. To get Gary Bettman uncomfortable enough to say, well, we've done stuff like this before, and where were you on that? Pretty contentious. That's a pretty serious thing. And as you know, not exactly the best tack for him to take. So I want you to read this article. Frank Saravalli retweeted it. Alex Pruitt is the writer. I don't want to highlight any more than that because I think it deserves, rather than me yapping about it, I would rather you read it and absorb it for yourself because there's no way that we could possibly do it justice. I just wanted you to be aware that the article exists and that you should read it. And it was not getting, it's a shame what's happened with Sports Illustrated because frankly, it was the gold standard for such a long time. And I just don't hear much about it anymore. But there is still some incredible writing going on there.
Well, Alex Pruitt's really good.
Alex Pruitt's incredible. And
I will say,
and I want things like this to take more of the center. And I didn't see it enough on hockey Twitter, and I want it out there. So please check this out. The article is entitled, let me just get the title out here, Steve. The Fight Over Hockey's Racial Reckoning. There you go.
Well, the first I had heard of the story is when you brought it up before the show to Jesse and I.
Yeah.
So
And you're the guy who's plugged in. You're the one who's on.
I'm pretty sure I even follow Alex. Like I didn't see it. I wish the best for the members of the HDA, because there is a tendency to weed out troublemakers, basically. And I think back to the 2013, for crying out loud, the 2013 collective bargaining agreement negotiations, and one guy who was labeled as the biggest pain in the ass was Chris Campoli. And he was out of the league so fast after that. And I just think, man, it took a long time to sign Anthony Duclair and, Matt Dumba and the trade rumors. I wish well for every member of the HDA because they're doing a good thing. And I hope no one would be working against them, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like I haven't read the article, obviously. I just heard about it like most people listening.
We're going to read about it when you all do.
Yeah. It seems like there's a point of contention where it doesn't have to be. It seems like a fight that should be very simple and very straightforward with the same goals. And yet there's still people butting heads.
Well, there's a lot of things in here. Like, I'm just going to give you for instance. They promised to have the the HDA logo on the jumbotrons throughout the tournament in the fall. They did it for the first week. Yeah. Dumba said, so that's Evander Kane said that. Matt Dumba says they were given 6 days and declined to comment on Kane's claims. There is a lot of back and forth here. And I'll read you. As members began, I'm going to read you the exact quote about the situation I was talking about, just so you can get a little more context. As members of the HDA began blasting Bettman for not doing more to prevent these incidents, we're talking about the Van Beesbrook, we're talking about the Bill Peters, we're talking about, Wayne Simmons having a banana thrown at him, all of these things. Citing various NHL diversity initiatives during his 27-year tenure, Gary Bettman asked the players what they had done and where they had been in the fight against racism. He quickly backtracked, but the damage was done. I think he knew he put his foot in his mouth, Evander Kane says. Everyone on that call had done a lot of things on their own to grow the game within their own communities. A comment like that really rubbed the guys the wrong way. Through a spokesperson, Bettman declined to comment. There is a lot there. There's so much there. And that's like, it's a big read, so you're going to have to take some time.
Also, asking a person of color where they were during like a racial divide, they were being discriminated against is where they were. They were on the wrong side of it.
It goes back to what we said during the Black Lives Matter protests, which were, it's not a black person's job to teach you about black people and about how black people have been treated. It's your job, right?
And if I can, so there was a story I don't think we actually ended up getting to, because I think this is back when we were doing one a week. On January 7th, Dane Mizutani tweeted 2 tweets. And this is what I was talking about with, I wish nothing but the best for the HDA members, and I hope no one would work against them. Matt Dumba tried to get his car shipped down to Arizona this summer. He said the shipping company he talked to wouldn't do it. The guy started saying some racist shit to me on the phone and saying that I should keep kneeling for my anthem, and I didn't ship my car down. He said 2 valets at his apartment heard the story and jumped in the car and drove it down. There's going to be those haters. I've got too many good people around me that support everything I'm doing. It don't faze me.
Right.
So he's trying to do something as simple as ship his car somewhere. And he can't even get that done without a hurdle. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? This is what I'm saying. If you heard me say that, oh, what are they going to do? It could be something as simple as that. And that's the tip of the iceberg.
So we wanted to leave you with that because that's an article that you absolutely must read. Now, we're gonna switch gears here to take a heavy right turn, and we're gonna do the press conference.
Woo. We have a couple stray things. One,
Okay.
There's a little bit of audio you have to hear
Okay.
from today. So you're about to hear the Detroit Lions' new head coach. His name is Dan Campbell. And every once in a while, an NFL head coach gets up to a podium and he goes berserk. He's 10 out of 10. He's just football coach to the ultimate max. There was playoffs is one of the most famous ones and one of the ones that's going to go down in history. And Dan Campbell may have just entered that pantheon.
I'm ready.
So I'm going to play this for you. It is something else.
All right. And so this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth. All right. And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. All right. And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing. All right. That's going to be the mentality.
Because we took both your
Right?
kneecaps.
And we're going to learn that any loss that we take, we're going to make sure we feel the full pain of it and not go numb to it and learn from it. All right. And so this team's going to.
That's Dan Campbell promising to take your kneecaps.
I don't like this new version of Dungeons and Dragons that the guy is playing.
It's an old reference, but have you ever seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail? And the guy just keeps getting his limbs cut off, and he's like, "Hey, I'll still fight you." It's like what Dan needed there was a word, and the word is resilience. Resilience.
Hey, we're going to be a resilient bunch. Why say that when you can just say, we're going to kick you in the teeth, and then you're going to hit us back. We're going to smile about it, and then we're going to rip your kneecap off, and then you're going to hit us 2 times. We'll get back up, and then we're going to rip your other kneecap off. And why say something that's one sentence when you can take 45 seconds to sound like a lunatic?
Well, and he clearly watched the WWF growing up. Like,
Yeah, but
He's cutting a promo.
yeah, we're gonna take 1 kneecap, 2 kneecaps.
yeah, but I'm gonna
3 kneecaps.
yeah, but I'm gonna deliver it like I work at Dunder Mifflin.
Yeah,
Like what? Like Stone Cold Steve Austin did not grab the microphone and go, I consumed 1 beverage, 2 beverage, 3 beverage, a cheeseburger, 4 beverage. Like that's not.
can I get a heck
says
yes?
know your gosh darn roll, please?
Heck yes.
I don't remember that one.
So I had to share that with you guys.
That's great, Jesse. I'm so glad you brought that. I didn't even know that we had the ability to share audio like that. So I'm going to start bringing more to the show because that's something that I think we've been missing. I've been missing. Like I watched. We went through I remember the Tavares Matthews interview after he signed, and it was
Front foot?
that clip exists on our YouTube page,
Yeah.
and I forgot how electric those two are together. Like just so much charisma packed into it. You know, it was a 1-minute clip, and I remember Jesse and I were on the air that afternoon, and Jesse starts laughing, and I'm like, "What are you laughing at, man?" Like, and he's like, "Just watch this clip," and you know, so it's Freege, who's already a low key guy, and then those two who are like comatose, and
Freege, a quiet guy, and easily the most electrifying man in the room.
yes,
Yeah.
like Freege could put on a rock concert compared to those two, and like, and honestly,
I guess he likes it front foot.
Yeah. Hey, so where did he tell you to put your one-timers? Front foot. Better not miss.
So we're bringing that back. That's great that we have that, Jesse. Fantastic.
Another loose note we had was a statement from the NHL today. They said the National Hockey League announced today that effective with tonight's games, the league will be using game pucks without the embedded tracking technology. The decision was made after concerns were raised about the puck's performance during the first few days of the 2021 season. A review by the league determined that the first supply of 2021 pucks did not receive the same precise finishing treatments during the off-season manufacturing process as were used during the 2020 Stanley Cup playoffs. It expected that the new supply of the league's tracking pucks will be available soon, and after undergoing appropriate quality control testing, will be back in use for all games.
So, okay. So this was Matthews was talking about it, and he was saying, yeah, it doesn't feel right. But also Spezza, supposedly. So those are two different players, different generations sort of in this league. What I don't understand the point. Like player tracking, I find interesting. How much a player moves throughout a game, I think is very relevant. The puck tracking, I'm just not sure what you're going to get out of that, other than how fast it's moving. Ooh.
Which you can speed gun.
It's just not the
not
most relevant information in the world.
It's also I guess a precursor to like you start here and then eventually you get to a point where the chip in the puck can determine if it went over the line.
Or if it's offside.
Or if it's offside, that's a good one too. But you got to start somewhere. First, you got to start tracking them. And you got to start developing a system.
Okay. I would expect, because listen, if you're going to use video replay, instead of using video replay, just get rid of the linesman, have a chip in the puck, and use a robot. Like honestly, I just like because at least the only thing I get the point about getting the call right. I get it, but to me at this point, it's like either human beings make mistakes. So that means if the humans making the mistake on the ice, let them make the mistake on the ice. I just don't care. I cannot sit through another replay. And so if we are able to get past that and past the human judgment of really, no offense to linesmen, but
what? Say it.
Say it. What do you want to say?
No one on that, like when you were playing hockey growing up, you're not like, oh man, I really got to respect what the linesman's saying. Like, no offense to any linesman listening to this, but it's not. It's not the most involved gig. What do you do? What do linesmen really do? It's offside, it's icing, and I'm going to fake drop the puck and piss everybody in the arena off because the face-off is a little bit weird.
Adam, I think you're upsetting a lot of people.
I don't care, man. Adam, either have human beings do human things or don't. But for me, I am pro put the chips in the thing and get rid of the linesman. Less people on the ice to get in the way. And let the refs drop the puck for God's sakes. I'm sure we can figure that out.
This is just the latest in a long line of anti-referee propaganda Adam has been saying. Like,
it's true.
He hates what's his face?
Wes McCauley?
5 minutes.
I hate Wes McCauley.
Wes McCauley, yeah. I'm sick of it.
He's a ref.
I'm sick of it, Adam. Show them some gosh darn respect, why don't you?
You know what? I don't like the fact that the referee lobby is bigger than the government now. So no, I think honestly, it would simplify the game without it. However, I do want to ask
as well. Wow.
I wonder maybe this is a thing that isn't a problem, but it's probably more expensive to have those pucks with the tracking in it, right?
Oh yeah.
The NHL is losing money hand over fist right now. Does it not kind of make sense for them to say, yeah, let's cut a little cash here. We don't really need this right now.
It just doesn't. Listen, you should always try to innovate. You should always try. You should try. Is this it?
I don't know.
That's it. That's priority. That's
I look at a system like tennis where they've developed like a precision ability to tell if a ball hit a line. Like they can do it 1-to-1 no matter what. And
is it in the ball?
Yeah. Well, it's a camera angle, right?
Yeah, it's through cameras, not through the ball necessarily. So they've been able to do it. So it's gonna come eventually. It's just not quite here yet.
Yeah.
Do you guys want a first question?
We do.
So this comes from Bon. Bon says Keefe created a so-called checking line with Hyman, Kerfoot, and Mikheyev. So why not deploy them against McDavid instead of making Austin play against them, especially when you have last change at home? What do you guys think?
Steven?
That's a good point, but again, I think people are getting caught up in the wrong thing. Matthews scored. He scored. So if we're going to criticize Keefe for doing that, he actually won that battle. At 5-on-5, Matthews' line outscored McDavid's. Draisaitl got the goal on the power play. At 5-on-5, Keefe won that battle. The problem was, as we discussed earlier, the third line did not score.
Mhm.
Hyman can score. Kerfoot can score. And you know what? He better start because he makes 3.5.
Yeah.
And Mikheyev is a good player. I don't know about the whole scoring thing, but like he's a good player.
Yeah.
That's a good line that should score. The problem is not that Keefe put his best player against the Oilers' best player and won the battle. The problem is that the depth is not contributing.
Yep.
We need it. So, there's I get what you're saying, and like I don't even have a problem with the logic. I'm just saying we watched the game and it worked.
And I know Steve always says if it's and buts, we're candy and nuts, right? But let's just
I invented that. Yes.
Let's have I think was it Elliot Freeman at the intermission was like, my dad said if you can't take it, don't give it. And I was like, did your dad say that, or does everyone say that? Elliot?
Everybody's dad.
Pretty sure everyone says that, but okay. The thing that I thought was interesting about that game, and again, it didn't happen this way, so it wouldn't have happened this way. However, if that goal doesn't go in off of Jake Muzzin's skate, the Leafs are up 1-0 in the third period. Different game.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's
and even if Edmonton ties to score it up, they're not going to score two because one of those was an empty netter. So then we're talking about a completely different game. And so maybe we don't want to hyper focus too much on game 6. Is it game 5? 5. So yeah, I just look at it like it's not a loss that you can be upset about, but you do want to score.
That goal goes in because a puck hits Jake Muzzin's skate, because Jimmy Vesey panicked, because Leon Draisaitl was barreling down on him. The Oilers created that. Give him credit. Give him credit.
100%.
He better get good.
Jesse, next question.
We have to shout out at Verbal97, who responded on Twitter and said, no question, but I did want to say that I was inspired by Steve's car story to fight a company over a $1 charge.
Oh.
And unlike Steve, I actually won my fight.
Hey.
So shout out Jonathan.
Do we have a full story on that?
No, he doesn't go on to explain like the company or anything, but he said he got his $1.
I would love to know what it is.
Yeah.
Love to know what it is.
Yeah. I wish I could go back in time.
Steve, I say that every day, man. There's so many regretful things. Jesse?
Next question comes from Purpled Cake. This one is very important.
Mm-hmm.
I know the ring lights are a big upgrade, but has Steve seriously gone this whole time without replacing the sheet of paper he was using as a diffuser on his desk lamp? I mean, LFR studio light setup, question mark?
Bro, not only that. I mean, I've probably replaced the paper a few times over the years, but like I've had that lamp that might be lamp number 2, because I think a lamp broke, and then my solution was not then to get a lighting setup. It was to get another lamp.
So can you explain, for 14 years, you've been shooting your YouTube.
Let me go get it. I'll go get it so I can show everyone.
Okay.
Let me go get it.
Okay. Now we wait.
I have a story that I would like to get to.
Regarding?
Oh, this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is okay. So just to fill some time here, Jesse, This is in June. It will be 8 years doing this show, which is crazy. We started in 2013.
I was going to just say an embarrassment.
Wait, this show's an embarrassment in June?
No.
This will be an embarrassment? What?
Regarding the entire situation, I know you're going down.
Right. But I need you to know that your question about Steve's ring light has been a constant source of frustration for yours truly.
Yeah.
And I would like to run down the timetable of events. We're going to go a little long today. That's okay with me because this is worth it.
But you don't have to pick up your daughter? You're good?
Well, I do have to pick up my daughter, so we can only go so long. I don't know where Steve went, why he felt the need to go, where he's
went
going.
to go get the lamp.
I don't know why. Why did he get
He
the
wanted
lamp?
to bring it and show the audience.
All right.
Show and tell.
Steve,
and now he can't find it.
It's on Twitter. Who cares? Steven.
Steve, come back. He doesn't have his headphones on. Okay. All right. There he is.
So basically,
can't find it.
For anybody that first off, if you're not watching, then you didn't miss anything. But also, it looks like the Pixar lamp. That's what it looks like, right? It's the white metal shade. It's the Pixar lamp.
Steve, you missed it while you were gone. Adam was getting himself wound up.
So
Here we go.
So okay, I want to tell you what it's like when I make jokes about Steve opening his wallet and bats flying out. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, this is a man with over 120,000 subscribers on YouTube. Okay.
Oh, Adam, 140, but who's
140? And then add this channel that has another 40,000. Right? So a lot going on. This is a guy who can justify spending $150 on a ring light. You can get them for cheaper than that, but a good one, 150. You don't move it around too much, it won't break on you.
I think I got the pair for 160.
Well, there you go. See? There's those bats flying around. But what I'm
Adam,
saying,
it's not cheapness, it's pure sloth.
what I'm saying is, do you understand how hard it was for us to even convince Steve to get an SLR camera? Do you remember, Steve? What did you used to use before that camera, Steve?
I don't even remember. I think it was the camera on my MacBook.
Yes, it was. And we were like, Steve, how are you not using an SLR camera? Because Jesse and I at KISS were using SLR cameras to record some of our stuff. I'm like, Steve, you actually have an online following. I got nothing. What do you?
No, he bought his camera before I
Did he? Oh, okay. Well, I
Yeah,
bought
yeah.
mine in like 14 or 15 or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, beyond that, do you think Steve bought any sort of stand for that camera to sit on?
I have one now.
Yes. What did you have for years, Steve? That camera sat on at a weird angle.
It was a table, and then I put it on top of that table. I put a shoebox that I got during the 2010 Olympics. But you see, the lens for the camera would tilt down, so I would put a pack of hockey cards underneath it to keep it flat.
instead of buying a $30 tripod.
But I like that setup.
So I remember
liked it.
too. So Jesse starts. I had an SLR and Jesse had an SLR, and in 2016, I think we started this YouTube channel, and it was really Jesse's thing. It was his idea, his initiative. He started recording segments, we started posting in them, and then we started doing full episodes. And that was when we were in the original studio. It was the backup studio at Rogers on the 5th floor, and it was like the side view of us. The OGs know. And I remember thinking, boy, that studio looks dark. So I went out and bought lights for the podcast, and they were $1,000. And I remember Steve saying, it's a lot of money for lights. And I said, what do you use? And he said, a lamp. And I was like, Steven. So, Steve, we're very happy for the fact that you have come after 15 years into the world of YouTubing. I'm just wondering for yourself, did it hurt to actually give up the lamp? Did you feel like it was a source of pride? Like, I don't need that. Look at all the success I've had with the ragtag crew that I've put together. My lamp and that crumpled up piece of paper and the hockey card set and the shoebox from the 2010 Olympics that for some reason you hung on to for more than 30 seconds.
It's a nice box.
It's a box. It's like,
But it's a nice box. It's a nice one.
What do you have that for?
Because it's nice.
Like,
Also, I think there's some. Are there a pair of shoes in it? There's a pair of shoes that was left behind at the shoot, and I think they're Jerome McGinley's, and I still have them.
You don't know that.
are they signed?
No,
Are they your size?
There's some random.
No, they're
man's
actually too
shoes.
small.
They're too small. There's just some shoes.
they're just some shoes,
You could have sold those. Put them up on Marketplace for $30.
but I haven't.
Have you owned a microphone?
No. I tried to buy one though.
Yeah,
I did try to buy one, and I'm working on it now. I couldn't find one that fit my needs. So what I did was I got some equipment to improve the sound in the room rather than improve the microphone, which
but
it
you're
did
using
improve
it.
it. It's probably still not good enough, but it did improve it.
Yeah, you're
Right.
using the microphone on a DSLR
On a
instead of
7-year-old
camera.
DSLR, yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna send you a link to the Rode mics that clip on. It'll go directly into your camera.
I already have it. I'm probably going to buy it after the show. I've
Awesome.
been talking to. I purchased the camera today. I purchased the camera this morning.
Whoa!
For the first time since like summer 2013.
Damn, the entire cave is emptying out here. Look
Wow.
at this.
I know. Well, I just decided, I guess, guys, I just decided I'm sick of the failure. I'm sick of only having 140,000 subscribers talking about, one single hockey team. I'm sick of using that garbage setup for all those videos I do that go on TV. And, this is an experience that I'm going to have to write about in my next best-selling book. I feel like I've wasted my life.
Steve,
okay. I'm glad you committed to yourself.
Right. For far as you've come with very little equipment, I can't help but wonder what you could have done with like a little bit of an upgrade, like halfway through,
Yeah.
When did you start to pay for your editing program?
He still doesn't.
I don't.
This is the free thing that comes on his Mac.
I tried to buy Final Cut last night.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't let me because I had to do an upgrade. So I'll probably buy that after the show. And then I'll slowly start editing smaller videos on it and work my way up to LFRs because it's kind of tough to learn a new software mid-season. But I started making LFRs October 2007. It's now January 2021, and I have never used a software that I've paid for.
Now, listen, a lot of this is commendable and respectable. It shows that you can do things on a budget and be successful. It comes down to talent, and there's no question about that, Steve. However, at a certain point, you're sword fighting with one hand behind your back. And I feel like that's what was going on here. It was just sort of like, I think, here's the thing. When you get Final Cut and you get that microphone, there's going to be some stuff that you're going to be able to do that you're going to go, wow, I could never do this before. Now I can do this.
It's just, God, I just have so little.
Oh, okay. Also, let me ask you a quick question, too, before we go here. Was there a verdict on Victory Babies?
Oh, yeah, I'm not doing it.
Obviously. By the way, there was, did you talk about it on an LFR? Because when I tweeted about it, I got a ton of angry responses, and I was like, that doesn't seem right. And I guess it was because you talked about it on an LFR, and I didn't make that connection.
I think people might have mistakenly thought I was talking about what we had mentioned on the podcast, because it wasn't you who were kidding. It was people meaning well, going, hey, you should do Victory Babies, or you should have, like, I've even gotten cameo requests like, hey, can you do a video with Iggy? Can you do a video with Leo in it? And I'm like, no. Like, and like, respectfully, like, I think sometimes people ask for things and they don't fully think it through, and they don't, I don't know, they've never met. I think, Leo just got here, and he's met very few people, and maybe people don't necessarily grasp he's a human being just yet. And man, like, I'm not gonna friggin' he's not a prop. He's not a prop. I wouldn't bring ring lights into this room. What makes you think I'm going to bring a child? You know what I mean? But now he'll be a properly lit baby if I ever use him.
Also, Steven, can you take off your headphones for a second and rotate right, rotate left, please? No, your head. Rotate your head. Oh. So I just want to know quickly, you SL cut your hair. Mrs. Dangle cut your hair during the first period of the game yesterday.
First intermission into the second,
And you were going for the Peaky Blinders thing, or?
We were going for a 1 into a 2, and then we sort of said, hey, how about just a 1 then, all the way up? She did her best.
It'll grow in.
It'll grow back.
No, I'm not. I've had worse haircuts than this. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
I've had worse haircuts than this.
I've had worse haircuts.
There's a compliment if I've ever heard one. Someone tweeted me and they're like, I wonder if that was his first choice.
Hey.
Good one. Good tweet. Good tweet.
Can I just put a cap on your equipment conversation?
Sure.
It's a lesson to every creator out there, every young person who's trying to start something. It's not about what you got. It's just about how you use it. You know, you can start with anything really, and you can keep going for 14 years and you can be success. You know, you don't need the fancy equipment they use in the studios. You don't need the highest technology. You can just use whatever's available and you can be successful.
Yeah.
You can. And when you hit 100,000 subs, feel free to invest in some equipment.
Buy a microphone.
Showing up in Sportsnet promos. I use a lamp. Like, okay, like you can see that there's a little, like, at what point, you know? Guys, I'm a race car driver, but off track. You know what I like to drive? A 98 Toyota Tercel. It's the first guy I've ever owned.
Scrivens had the Red Dragon. That
was a great truck, though. That was cool. Wasn't it?
It was not a great truck. It shut off at red lights because all the gas went to the front of the tank. It was not a great truck, but he drove it anyway.
That's right.
Listen, you know, I'll have to talk about this next time I'm in the Hockey Night in Canada studio, and you know they have
big guy.
Okay, all right.
I mean, it's just a shame.
We deserve that.
I just want to thank God Almighty for giving you all so much and me so little.
All right. Well, listen, this is a blast. It was nice to be back. Thanks for everybody that reached out when I tweeted that I got the stomach flu. I think 40 people made that, it sounds like a shitty time joke, which was great. Do appreciate that. And
how many people thought you had COVID?
Oh my God. There was I guess, I don't know if this is true or not, but people were like, well, did you get a COVID test? And I said, well, no. And they're like, well, it can present as the stomach flu. And I talked to my doctor about that. And he said, where did you get that information? And I said, the internet. And he said, aha. and we discussed it, and I have the stomach flu. So no COVID. Thank you very much for everybody that checked in, though. And if you do feel like you have those symptoms, I did not have any of the symptoms. Please go get a test. It was weird. Stomach flu is something that I hadn't had in a long time. You feel completely fine up here. It's everything else that sucks. Oh. Everything above the neck is fine. You don't have a cold. You don't have anything. Below is just, everything's on fire. It's terrible. So hope that you don't get either, frankly. And we'll be back on Monday, I guess. And wrap it up there.
Nobody wants to hear this, Adam.
No? Well, hey, listen.
I hope you're not.
I just want to throw it out there. Honestly, in the COVID era, every time you even get a little sniffle, like even allergies, you're like, shit, I better go get a test. So talk to a doctor is my recommendation. Just put it that way, right? Fair?
It's
fair.
It's like my grandpa always said, get a COVID test.
Did he? Is that what he said?
Yeah, he invented it. Yeah. 5 years ago was the messed up thing.
Thank you. All right, we're out of here. We'll see you Monday.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Connection complete.